Hi, I'm Cameron. You might recognize me as that guy from the last video, or maybe not since I bothered to actually shave this morning. That's a lie, I shaved last night, but it kind of flowed better off the tongue, so maybe I just said that to look more presentable. I wasn't even wearing this shirt 10 minutes ago, but I changed into it to look more presentable, because it's really about the way that you present yourself, isn't it? People always present themselves in the way that they want to be seen, right? I don't necessarily think that's the case, but that's not what this video is about. Maybe we can do like a present yourself as you want to be seen video down the line or something, but that's not what I wanted to talk about today. A lot of my videos tend to lean on the negative side, I think, just a bit. I don't think that they're particularly negative. I think I'm kind of just saying how I feel, and that's fine. You know, I don't think that negative emotions necessarily mean negative things. Just talking about how you feel is fine, you know. If anything, I don't think enough people talk about how bad they feel. I think that everybody just kind of keeps it shoved down and like there's something wrong with you if you get sad about stuff. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. It's no secret that I went to Japan. There's a video about it called I'm in Japan. That video is about an hour long. Little undigestible for the common person who might have randomly clicked on one of these videos. And there was one thing that happened while I was in Japan that I wanted to talk about, since now that it's been about 3 weeks-ish since I got back, I've had time to articulate my thoughts more about it. And I realized that it was the happiest day of my life. Now, there was one other thing that happened to me that I used to consider the happiest day of my life, but that's something I won't talk about today. Maybe down the line if I become creatively bankrupt and need to break glass in case of creative bankruptcy. I saw the Gundam statue. I haven't really talked about it too much. You know, if I'm talking about Gundam, I may as well have this guy here. This guy was also in Japan with me. I found him on the second day of my trip, and I saw him, and I was like, I don't care how annoying this is going to be to get on the plane. Haro is coming home with me. Haro's here with me now in America. And so it was all worth it. He's here with me now. So I haven't really talked too much about Gundam or any of the things that I like aside from like mentioning Tekken and the occasional mention of World of Warcraft. But as an aside, I love video games. I love everything about video games. I am happy that I've played a very significant chunk of every game that's ever come out. I love anime, I love manga, I love movies, music, etc. And I don't think that's like an exceptional thing to love creativity. But given that there's like a YouTube channel for every single subdivision of creativity, there's a guy who like does coffee reviews. Can you imagine that? Like coffee reviews? I like coffee. That guy did like a drink along taste test thing. You ordered like a special package of coffee, and you tasted it with him, and I almost threw up. It was terrible. I hated it. Maybe I don't like coffee. I don't know. That's not the point of the video. But I really do love Gundam a lot. I love mecha. I love giant robots. Now, this is where I could list off everything that I love, but I wanted to focus on Gundam. I have always known about Gundam, much like anybody who likes giant robots, but I only got into it at the start of the year. And the more I watched of it, the more I felt like I had a greater understanding of not only this genre that I've always loved, but of Japanese culture as a whole, and video games as a whole. I mean, media as a collective whole. The more I took in of Gundam, the more I saw the profound effect that it had in every single facet of everything that I've ever cared about. It's going from thinking that Sonic Heroes isn't actually that bad to playing it again and going, hey, that boss is just a Zaku, isn't it? Or rewatching something and all of a sudden going, oh, that's why that guy's red and runs really fast. Like little connections like that. And not only did I see this massive influence, but taking into account like the time period in which it came out in, and all of the people who've worked on it, and what it means to those people, I came to see it as something greater than itself. It really does represent... I think that it represents this overall desire for peace. There's a line in the first series of Gundam that always stuck with me, and I mean, there's like 80 million different translations. I'm probably not going to get the specific one that anybody who's watching this who actually watched that has also heard. But it's, after all, the world can't be this bad forever, right? And I think that that's really what Gundam is all about. So, when I went to Japan, there were some things that happened while I was on that trip that put me in a really bad mood. Again, I don't want to talk about that type of thing right now. But there was a fight that was really petty, and it was another one of those examples of feeling like, why am I so misunderstood? And there was this overwhelming sensation of, I finally made it to Japan, and even here, I feel the same way that I do back home. And just for clarification, it wasn't any of the locals or anything like that. No, every local that I met in Japan was extremely nice. Great place. It wasn't a local. No, I'll leave it at that for now, if I ever come back to it. But I was in a terrible mood. And we were like going to go see the Gundam statue. That was like the purpose of where we were at. And when I was in that terrible mood, I walked away, and it was like I saw it over the horizon in the distance. I saw the top of the unicorn's horn. For those of you who don't know, the Gundam statue is the Gundam unicorn, which is from, you guessed it, Gundam Unicorn. Very, very good. I saw the top of the unicorn's horn, and it was like all of that anger and insecurity and self-loathing just left my body. It was like a spell was cast on me. Something came over me, and I remember just kind of running to it. Like I felt like I was floating. Everything was just gone. And there I was, standing in front of it, the unicorn. And it wasn't like transformed or anything. And I thought like, well, I know that it transforms, so it's too bad that I'm here during the day and I don't get to see that. But there was a sign nearby that said that it was like transformed back and forth like on the hour, and it was like 10 minutes until it was going to transform again. And when I saw that, I stood there in front of the unicorn waiting for 10 minutes. I didn't do anything else. I didn't like have my phone out taking pictures or anything. I remember I just stood there staring at it for 10 minutes, and it was like I was in this trance. It was the most surreal thing I'd ever experienced in my entire life, to be looking up at a Gundam, to be looking up at a giant robot, like this thing that I've always loved. And I was there in person. There it is in front of me. It's not fake, you know? It's I don't know. I mean, like, it's probably the same way that people feel when they go to an anime convention for the first time and they see Saber walking around, and it's like, my wife is real? Oh my goodness! But it was towering over me. And then once the hour turned, there was this like noise that erupted out of nowhere, and it sounded like a mix between a plane taking off and like a car engine starting. It sounded like something was mobilizing, for lack of a better term. And I remember, because there was like a crowd of people there, and once that noise went off, it was like the crowd went silent. And then, out of nowhere, what felt like it was descending from the sky, the main theme of Gundam Unicorn started playing. For those of you who don't know, it's called Unicorn. I'd recommend giving it a listen. It's in Japanese, so unless you know the kanji for unicorn, you're probably not going to get it to pull up. Just type in Gundam Unicorn main theme. It's like the first result. That song started playing, and then I had this thought. I cried when this happened in the show. What's going to happen to me if I see this happen in person? And then the song kept playing, and the music swelled up, and then the unicorn transformed. And instead of just looking like a really cool giant robot, there it was in front of me, the Gundam. And looking up at that, seeing it glowing, and its eyes flashing, and that music blaring, I started crying. Except I didn't just cry, I burst into tears. I was sobbing. And I remember standing there looking up at it and seeing that face and thinking back on everything that the mecha genre really means to me, and thinking, I never want to forget this for the rest of my life. I never want to forget what it was like standing here looking at the unicorn. And as I was standing there, feeling that way, feeling like I was witnessing something genuinely special, genuinely profound, standing next to me was this elderly Japanese man. He even had the iconic elderly Japanese man hat on. And I mean, he was like old, you know, because for those of you who know anyone who's Japanese or have been to Japan, you understand that Japanese people don't look old until they're like a million years old. And I'm saying you could tell he was an old man. So he was standing next to me, and he had this massive grin across his entire face. And me, 24 years old, from a small town in South Dakota, that has a population of less than 500 who got shoved into mud puddles and beaten up by girls for liking Pokemon at the time. Never invited to anybody's birthday party. The one time I was, they didn't have enough room in the vehicle, so they left me behind. When I was in the 4th grade, I saw everyone at the lunch table sitting together, and I sat down and they all got up and went to a different table, and I was sitting there by myself. In the 2nd grade, it was track and field day, and I promised myself I was going to try my hardest this year. And it was the 100-meter dash, and I took off running as hard as I could when they blew the whistle. And then every single other runner kept getting further and further away from me. And I stopped. And I turned around and I walked back to the start. And the teacher asked me, "Why did you stop running?" And I looked at her and I said, "Because I'll never catch up." For someone like me to be standing there in front of something far greater than myself, so very distant away from where I started, and all of that sadness and hatred, looking up at the Gundam, at the unicorn, standing next to someone who's had a completely different life than I have in a completely different part of the world, so far away it doesn't even feel like I'm on the earth anymore. To be standing there in that moment, it was like none of that sadness ever existed in the first place. It was like all of those things that I was ostracized previously for, all of those things that I was alienated and beat up for and shoved into puddles for and made fun of for constantly, all of those things that I was called a weirdo for. I didn't have anyone, no one, nobody. It was just me. I didn't have anybody until I learned how to fake it, and even then that wasn't real either. Everyone who's ever criticized me for anything or made me feel like I was worthless and how I felt didn't matter, none of those people meant anything anymore. They couldn't touch me. Because standing there in front of me was the big giant robot. And next to me was someone who's had a completely different life who was looking at it the same way I was. I don't need to speak the same language as somebody to know what that look in their eye meant. There in front of me was the ultimate symbol that who I am is okay. I love giant robots. I love video games. And I love Gundam. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am okay being the way that I am. Despite all of my insecurities and all of my failures and shortcomings and everything that I hate about myself, I am loved. There are a lot of people in my life who love me for being the way that I am, and I don't need to change for anyone. And looking at that big giant Gundam, I understood that for the first time in my life. No matter how many times somebody told me that, I could never internalize it. And yet standing there in this distant part of the world, so far away from everything, there was a big statue that said, "Hey Cameron, isn't this awesome? Isn't this cool?" And this is a separate thing, but very much still the same feeling. When I went to the Tokyo Tower and climbed to the very top, I say climb, I took the elevator. I climbed down though. I did climb down though. I wanted to climb to the top, but the group didn't want to climb to the top. I saw the staircase and I was like, see ya, and I climbed all the way to the bottom. I'm horrified of heights. This is a very interesting experience. But being at the top of the Tokyo Tower, it wasn't the view that meant something to me. It was the wall of prayers that was behind me. The little like wooden plaques that they hang on the wall at like shrines, and I guess at the Tokyo Tower as well in Japan. And I was looking at that, and there were so many different languages. I mean, I can barely even read Japanese. You know, I can't read any of the other languages. But there was a prayer there that was written in plain English that just said, "I want to make art that makes the world a better place." It was like I had already been there before. Someone who felt the same way that I do, even as I'm saying this right now, went to the same place I did, feeling the same way that I do, and when they were there, they prayed. They prayed that their dreams of making the world a better place could come true. And then you look at that massive wall of prayers and you realize everyone came to this spot wanting the same thing, wanting the world to be better. And standing there at that spot, I really truly understood what the words, "After all, the world can't be this awful forever," right? Truly meant. And no matter how sad I may be, no matter how difficult my life may get, I believe that the world won't be this awful forever. I believe that there will be a day when things will be better. And even if I can't feel that right now, standing there in front of the unicorn, I felt like I could finally believe in something. It felt like there was meaning in my life that I couldn't see before. It made me understand that humanity, I can't even speak. It made me understand that humanity has something that they can always believe in. Possibility. That possibility that lies within us. And it doesn't matter what gets in my way. It doesn't matter if I have a crappy job. It doesn't matter if I have bad friends. It doesn't matter if I need to worry about how I'm gonna be able to survive, whether that's physically or mentally or emotionally. Because people evolve. We evolve beyond the person that we were a minute before. Little by little, we advance a bit further with each turn. If there's a wall in our way, we smash it down. And if there isn't a path, then we carve one ourselves. It's not just about being more. It's not just about being better, but being our best. And getting out of bed might be hard sometimes, but the fact that we continue to do that is what matters. It's not about how much money we have. It's not about how many friends we have or how good we look or how many suicide grip pull-ups we can do. But it's about getting out of bed every day and doing what we can do. And for me, right now it might feel really hard. Maybe right now all I can do is sit in front of a camera and tell you how I feel. But the fact of the matter is that you're listening to this right now. And as much as people want to say, don't worry about what other people think, we're social creatures. We need other people in our lives. As scared as I am of other people, I don't believe that shutting them out is the answer. I don't believe that pretending to be somebody that I'm not because I'm scared of getting beaten up for liking Pokemon again is the answer either. Being happy doesn't mean anything if I don't have anyone to share it with. And even if making this video and sitting in front of you right now is a very scary thing for me to do, it's what I felt like I had to do right now. Because it's what I can do right now. And if there's one other person out there who's gonna watch this video and get to this part and sit through everything else, then I made this video for you. I'm talking to you right now. And if you feel like you're misunderstood or everybody hates you or that nobody cares about you and there's something wrong with you, I'm here to tell you right now that unless you're like killing squirrels in the forest or something, you are perfectly fine just the way that you are. There is nothing wrong with you in the way that you feel. Because you're you. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that amazing? My entire life I spent hating myself, feeling like nobody understood me. And then all it took was going to some magical faraway place. All it took was a plane ticket and walking a couple of miles to see a big giant sign that said, "Cameron, you're awesome! Giant robots rock!" So I wanted to share that. Because as much as I like venting about my problems, and as much as I appreciate the fact that there are people who like these videos, and there are people who leave comments talking about how they feel the same way, and it means a lot to them that I'm talking about that. That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And I wanted to not only express that sadness, but the happiness that comes with it. Because I can feel so awful, I know what it means to truly, finally, genuinely be happy. And if me just talking about that can help other people too, then I don't need to work in a hospital. I don't need to have a PhD in telling people how to solve their problems. I can just be myself. And maybe if other people see that and they say that they believe in me and it makes them feel better, then I can believe in them. And if I can believe in them, then I can believe in the version of me that they believe in. And I can believe in the me who believes in myself. And I want to do that. I want to believe in the me that believes in myself. And if you can't believe in yourself, then believe in the me who believes in you. I really hope in this video about how much I love giant robots, you caught at least 4 of the references that I made from giant robots. And that last one is really easy. I think there's a solid 2 of them that 99% of the people who watch this video aren't going to get. But if you did get it, let me know. I would be genuinely happy if you recognized one of those. And it was something that somebody said to me once in college. Cameron, you talk like an anime character, except I can tell you actually believe in what you're saying. And I do. To me, it's not just a show. It's not just something to pass the time. I don't think that video games are just silly toys. It's the story of humanity. The bits and pieces of ourselves that we share, that we put in these things. Those are what make us who we are. And I guess right now this is just the way I chose to share myself with you. So thank you for watching. And remember to smash that bell and hit that like button and subscribe. Peace!